From glowing domes in Mexico to green fireballs in New Mexico, these mysteries will really make you question what's above us. Early one morning, residents of a jade mining area in northern Myanmar were startled by a deep roar from the sky, followed by a shockwave that rattled windows for miles. When the dust cleared, they found something that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie, a massive 5-meter-long hollow cylinder lying in the red earth. It was scorched, dented, and covered with strange welding patterns, but there were no markings to reveal who made it. Some villagers swore they saw flames trailing behind it as it fell, while others claimed it dropped from the clouds without warning. Officials moved quickly to secure the site, but not before photos spread across the internet, sparking a storm of theories. Was it a piece of a rocket, a satellite fuel tank, or something entirely unknown? The most curious detail was that no country or space agency publicly claimed ownership, leaving its origin shrouded in secrecy. Some online sleuths connected it to a Chinese rocket launch that had gone wrong, while others pointed out the unusual metal composition that didn't match typical aerospace debris. Whatever the truth, the Myanmar cylinder joined the growing list of mysterious objects from above that defy simple explanation. A reminder that not all space junk looks like twisted scraps. Sometimes it arrives looking like it's built for a mission we were never told about. In a quiet town in Washington, an ordinary summer rainstorm turned into one of the strangest weather events ever recorded. Instead of clear droplets, a strange translucent gel began falling from the clouds, splattering across rooftops, cars, and streets. Residents described it as tiny blobs, about the size of grains of rice, soft to the touch but oddly sticky. When the sun came out, the gel shimmered faintly, almost like the skin of a jellyfish. People quickly started collecting samples in jars, and that's when the mystery deepened. Laboratory tests revealed the substance wasn't water, and it wasn't any known atmospheric residue. Under the microscope, the gel appeared to contain tiny cell-like structures, organic but without a clear origin. Some speculated it could have been the remains of jellyfish swept high into the atmosphere by a military test gone wrong, while others leaned toward the possibility of unusual airborne algae. The event happened not just once but several times over a 3-week period, leaving more questions than answers. No official report ever explained it, and the Oakville blobs remain a modern urban legend backed by real samples and eyewitness accounts. Even now, photos of the mysterious gel circulate online, with many calling it one of the creepiest and most baffling things to ever fall from the sky. In the arid countryside of South Africa's Northern Cape, a farmer stumbled upon something that looked like it had rolled straight out of a science fiction prop department. Resting in the dirt was a perfectly round metallic sphere about 3 feet across, blackened by intense heat. It was surprisingly light for its size, with a hollow sound when tapped, as if it were made to hold something inside. The sphere had no seams or obvious openings, just strange, smooth grooves running along its surface. Locals said they'd heard a thunderous boom days earlier, followed by a streak of light tearing across the night sky. Experts were called in, and the object was eventually linked to space debris, likely a pressurized tank from a rocket or satellite that survived its fiery re-entry. But the real mystery was how it had landed so neatly without leaving a crater, and why it showed almost no signs of violent impact. NASA confirmed it was harmless, yet never identified the exact mission it came from. Some space watchers pointed out its design didn't perfectly match common rocket parts, fueling speculation that it might belong to experimental hardware never meant to be seen by the public. Today, the South African sphere sits in storage, a silent reminder that Earth's skies are not as empty as they seem. For weeks, people in the southern Indian state of Kerala watched the skies unleash something that looked straight out of a supernatural thriller, Rain the Color of Blood. It wasn't a light tint, either. Clothes left out to dry were stained crimson, and puddles looked like spilled paint. At first, locals feared industrial pollution or even volcanic ash drifting from far away. But when scientists analyzed the water, they found something far stranger. The red coloration came from millions of microscopic, cell-like particles suspended in the rain, and these particles had no DNA. This baffled researchers because almost every living cell on Earth contains DNA. Theories quickly spread. Some said the particles were spores from a local algae bloom, launched into the atmosphere by a thunderstorm. Others pointed to the possibility of desert dust carried from Arabia. The most sensational idea came from two physicists who proposed the particles might be of extraterrestrial origin, perhaps hitching a ride to Earth on a passing comet. Over the course of 2 months, the phenomenon appeared intermittently, often without any warning, then stopped just as suddenly as it began. Even after multiple studies, the origin of the particles remains disputed, and the red rain of Kerala is still one of the most vividly documented and unsettling meteorological mysteries of the modern era. On a quiet morning in the remote Siberian wilderness, a blinding flash lit up the sky, followed by a deafening shockwave that raced across the land. Moments later, an explosion ripped through the atmosphere with a force estimated to be over 1,000 times greater than the Hiroshima bomb. The blast flattened more than 800 square miles of forest, toppling an estimated 80 million trees like matchsticks. Witnesses living dozens of miles away described a column of fire rising into the sky and a heat wave that could be felt through walls. Yet, when expeditions finally reached the site years later, they found no crater, only a strange, scorched wasteland. This absence of impact remains one of Tunguska's greatest mysteries. The leading theory is that a meteor or comet exploded in the air before reaching the ground, releasing immense energy. Others suggest more exotic explanations, from a pocket of methane gas igniting to a fragment of an alien spacecraft meeting its end. Trees at the epicenter stood upright but stripped of branches, as if something invisible had blasted straight down from above. Even more curious, microscopic glassy spheres thought to be remnants of vaporized rock were discovered in the soil. Over a century later, the Tunguska event remains the largest known explosion in recorded history, caused by an object from space, and it still fuels debates among scientists and mystery hunters alike. Off the coast of Ubatuba in Brazil, a group of fishermen reported seeing a dazzling metallic object streak across the sky before exploding in midair. Instead of vanishing like a typical meteor, the object disintegrated into countless shimmering fragments that rained down into the ocean, with a few pieces landing close enough to be recovered. These fragments were unlike anything the locals had seen: silvery, lightweight, and incredibly pure. When samples reached a Brazilian journalist and were later analyzed by scientists, the results stunned them. The magnesium was almost 100% pure, far beyond the quality typically produced by industrial refining at the time. The level of refinement was so extreme that it raised the question who or what made it. Magnesium that pure would be nearly impossible to find in nature, and manufacturing it would require technology few believed existed then. While skeptics argued the fragments could have been part of a military flare or experimental aircraft, no nation stepped forward to claim them, and no convincing link to known human technology was ever proven. Over the years, many samples mysteriously disappeared from laboratories and private collections, adding to the intrigue. Today, the Ubatuba fragments remain one of the most enduring mysteries in UFO-related history, physical, tangible evidence that something extraordinary fell from the sky that day. In a coastal town on the island of Mindanao, a sudden storm brought more than just heavy rain. It delivered hundreds of live sardines straight from the sky. People stepped outside to see fish scattered across rooftop streets, and even in buckets meant for collecting rainwater. The sight was so bizarre that some residents didn't know whether to laugh or stare in disbelief. Scientists explained that strong waterspouts twisting columns of air forming over the sea can scoop up small marine life and carry them far inland before dropping them. While rare, the phenomenon has been documented in various parts of the world, but here, the sheer number of fish made it unforgettable. And then, whispers began. Some locals claimed that not all the fish were ordinary. Among the sardines, they said, were strange, transparent-looking creatures, unlike anything usually found in local waters. Whether it was just a trick of the light, a rare deep-sea species, or something far stranger, no one could say for sure. But for those who saw it, the memory has never faded, a reminder that the ocean may still hide secrets we're not ready to understand. On a clear March afternoon near Olympia Springs, Kentucky, the peaceful countryside was suddenly interrupted by one of the strangest events in American history. Without warning, chunks of raw meat began falling from the sky, drifting down like a grisly snow. Witnesses claimed the pieces ranged from thin strips to chunks the size of a man's hand, landing across an area roughly the size of a tennis court. The bizarre shower lasted only a few minutes, but left the ground littered with what looked like freshly butchered beef. Curious locals gathered samples, some even daring to taste them, reporting that the texture was similar to mutton or venison. Newspapers picked up the story, and soon scientists were examining the mysterious flesh. Early theories ranged from atmospheric phenomena to the absurd suggestion that the meat had formed like hail in the clouds. Eventually, the most widely accepted explanation, though still unsettling, was that a large flock of vultures, startled during flight, had simultaneously regurgitated their last meal. This behavior is known among scavenger birds, but to witness it in such quantity would have been rare and shocking. Yet even this theory never satisfied everyone. Some samples didn't seem to match any common animal meat, fueling speculation of more unusual origins. The Kentucky meat shower remains one of the most unsettling examples of something inexplicable, dropping from above an event so bizarre it still inspires equal parts curiosity and discomfort nearly a century and a half later. In the summer of 2009, residents of several Japanese prefectures looked up to see a strange sight: tiny tadpoles falling from the sky. At first, it was only a few scattered cases, but soon reports poured in from multiple towns. Streets, rooftops, and car windshields were dotted with the small, wriggling creatures, as if a sudden downpour had swapped raindrops for amphibians. The tadpoles appeared healthy and freshly alive, with no ponds or streams nearby that could explain their sudden appearance. Meteorologists were baffled. No storms or waterspouts were recorded in the affected areas, ruling out the usual explanation of aquatic animals being sucked into the air by strong winds. The distances between the towns, sometimes over 30 miles apart, also made a single localized weather event unlikely. One theory suggested that birds might have scooped the tadpoles from ponds and accidentally dropped them while flying overhead. However, the sheer number found in certain spots, sometimes dozens in a single yard, made this seem improbable to many locals. The mystery deepened when the phenomenon repeated several times that month in different locations, always without warning. Scientists collected specimens, but no definitive cause was ever agreed upon. To this day, the tadpole rain of Japan is remembered as one of the most puzzling animal skyfalls in modern times, a gentle yet surreal reminder that the skies can deliver surprises far stranger than rain. Late one December night, the quiet desert skies of New Mexico lit up with an intense emerald glow. A blazing green fireball streaked across the horizon, brighter than any meteor most had ever seen, before silently vanishing near the Sandia Mountains. This wasn't just witnessed by a few lucky stargazers. Pilots, scientists, and even military personnel reported the same dazzling sight. The object's strange color and unusually slow movement made it unlike typical meteors. Within days, rumors began to circulate about unusual metallic fragments found scattered across the desert floor. These pieces were described as lightweight, silvery, and oddly resistant to heat. Some accounts claim they didn't match the composition of any known aircraft or meteorite. The sightings occurred during the height of America's fascination and concern over unidentified flying objects, and the region's proximity to sensitive military installations only fueled speculation. The United States Air Force launched investigations under Project Twinkle, specifically aimed at tracking these green fireballs, which appeared multiple times in the following months. Official reports leaned toward the theory of secret military experiments, possibly involving flares or new aircraft technologies, but many experts quietly admitted that the phenomenon didn't match any known man-made object. With no definitive explanation and the recovered debris quietly disappearing from public view, the green fireballs of New Mexico remain one of the Southwest's most enduring aerial mysteries, and proof that sometimes, even under watchful eyes, the sky keeps its secrets. In the remote hills of Tuyen Quang Province, villagers were startled one morning by a deafening boom that echoed through the forest. Moments later, a massive cylindrical object crashed into a farmer's garden, carving a deep gouge in the earth before coming to rest. The cylinder was about 3 feet long, metallic, and heavily dented from impact, yet it appeared to have survived its fall remarkably well. Locals described hearing a strange whistling sound in the seconds before it struck, unlike the rumble of a meteor or the roar of a passing aircraft. Authorities quickly arrived and cordoned off the area, but not before photographs of the object began circulating online. The cylinder's smooth, rounded ends and welded seams gave it an industrial look, leading to immediate speculation that it might be space debris. The most likely explanation pointed to a pressurized fuel tank from a rocket or satellite, possibly linked to a foreign launch that had recently taken place. However, no country officially claimed it, and its precise origin was never confirmed. What made the incident more mysterious was that two smaller, similar objects were reportedly found in nearby provinces around the same time, suggesting a breakup of something large high above the region. Whether it was an unacknowledged space mission, an accidental re-entry, or something entirely different, the Vietnamese cylinder became another reminder that Earth's skies are far from empty, and that sometimes what falls from them is as strange as it is unexplained. In January 2004, residents in the Spanish region of Leon were startled by a sudden fireball slicing across the sky in broad daylight. It was followed by a low rumble that seemed to roll through the hills, and minutes later, small black stones began raining down over the countryside. These stones, no bigger than a fist, were warm to the touch and had a glossy, almost metallic sheen. Villagers collected dozens of them, laying them out on tables and photographing the unusual find. Scientists who examined the stones confirmed they were fragments of a meteorite, but their composition raised eyebrows. They contained unusual mineral combinations and microscopic metallic grains that suggested a violent origin in deep space. Some pieces showed tiny glass-like beads fused into their surface, the result of intense heat during atmospheric entry. The meteorite's path was never fully reconstructed, but its bright daytime appearance and wide scattering pattern made it one of Spain's most spectacular and best-documented meteorite falls. What fueled the mystery was the number of witnesses who claimed the fireball behaved oddly before breaking apart, making sudden changes in brightness and trajectory. While most experts chalked it up to the meteor fragmenting, others couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just an ordinary space rock. Even today, a few of the glossy black stones remain in private hands, treasured not just as meteorite specimens, but as tangible pieces of an event that turned an ordinary winter day into something unforgettable. In Mexico, locals awoke to find a massive black dome half buried at the edge of a cornfield. Its scorched surface was veined with glowing cracks, and a bright burn mark crowned its center. The ground around it looked torn apart, yet the object was eerily intact, with no markings or signs of construction. Officials quickly secured the site, but rumors spread, from a crashed UFO to a fragment of something far beyond human technology. To this day, no official explanation has been given, leaving the Black Dome as one of Mexico's most haunting modern mysteries. In the state of Veracruz, residents awoke to find a strange metallic sphere lodged high in the branches of a tree. It was perfectly smooth, silvery gray, and roughly the size of a large beach ball. Locals who saw it up close said it looked seamless, with no visible openings or markings except for a faint scorch pattern across one side. The object had apparently fallen during the night, accompanied by a loud thud that some mistook for distant thunder. What made it even stranger was how it ended up wedged in the tree instead of crashing to the ground. Some speculated that its descent had slowed before impact, as if it were guided rather than simply falling. Photos spread quickly on social media, sparking debates about whether it was space debris, experimental military hardware, or something more mysterious. Officials removed the sphere under tight security, warning the public not to touch it. Local meteorologists couldn't link it to any recorded meteor activity, and no country or organization stepped forward to claim ownership. A few amateur satellite trackers suggested it might be part of a deorbiting spacecraft, but the smooth design didn't match known rocket components. To this day, the Veracruz sphere's origin remains unknown, and the image of it hanging silently in that tree has become an eerie reminder that sometimes objects arrive from the sky that no one is willing or able to explain. In the small Honduran town of Lloro, locals look forward to a yearly event so bizarre it sounds like folklore, but it's real, witnessed by generations. During the rainy season, dark storm clouds gather and fierce winds sweep across the town. Then, as the downpour eases, the streets are suddenly alive with fish flopping in puddles. Residents rush out with buckets, collecting the fresh catch straight from the ground. The phenomenon is so consistent that it has its own name, Lluvia de Peces, rain of fish. Scientists believe waterspouts may be responsible, sucking fish from rivers or coastal waters and dropping them inland. But here's the twist: Lloro is far from the ocean, and the nearest large river doesn't seem to have enough fish to account for the sheer numbers seen each year. Adding to the mystery, locals say the fish that fall aren't the same species found in nearby waters, and many appear oddly pale, as if they've lived in darkness. Whether it's an extreme weather quirk, a unique geographic effect, or something science has yet to fully explain, the fish rain of Lloro is a celebrated part of the town's identity. Every year it draws curious visitors hoping to witness the skies, quite literally deliver dinner. A living reminder that nature still holds a few tricks that border on the miraculous. On a quiet farm near Grootfontein, Namibia, lies something so massive it's never been moved since the day it landed the Hoba meteorite. Discovered in 1920 while a farmer was plowing his field, this colossal iron mass weighs an estimated 60 tons, making it the largest known meteorite on Earth and the biggest naturally occurring piece of iron ever found at the surface. What's remarkable is that there's no crater. Experts believe its flat, angled shape caused it to slow dramatically as it entered the atmosphere, allowing it to land almost gently compared to typical meteor impacts. The meteorite is composed mostly of iron and nickel, with traces of cobalt, and its surface is marked by shallow pits from countless years of weathering. Studies suggest it fell to Earth tens of thousands of years ago, but how it survived in such a pristine condition is still a point of fascination. Local stories say it was once regarded with reverence, seen as a gift from the heavens. Today it sits exactly where it was found, drawing travelers from around the world to marvel at its sheer size and metallic gleam. Despite being one of the most studied meteorites in history, the exact origins of Hoba, the journey it took through space before ending up in that Namibian field, remain unknown, adding an element of quiet mystery to this gigantic visitor from beyond the stars. Deep in Namibia's remote grasslands, farmers stumbled upon a metallic object that seemed as if it had fallen straight from science fiction. It was a hollow sphere about 14 inches in diameter, with a dull silver-gray surface and faintly scorched patches, as if it had endured an intense descent through the atmosphere. Perfectly rounded and surprisingly light for its size, it had no obvious openings, only shallow grooves and weld-like seams that hinted at precise engineering. Days earlier, locals had reported hearing a series of loud explosions in the distance, followed by a strange whistling noise that faded away into silence. When news of the discovery broke, experts quickly arrived to inspect the site. Their first conclusion was that it was space debris, likely a pressurized tank from a rocket or satellite built from a titanium alloy capable of surviving the extreme heat of re-entry. But beyond that, details became scarce. No country or agency stepped forward to officially claim it, and no recent launch records perfectly matched the object's specifications. That's about it. Which thing that fell from the sky surprised you the most? Write in the comments, and don't forget to check out our other videos.